Hello and welcome. My name is Lynn Fishman, and I'm coming to you from the 41st Annual International Science and Spirituality Conference here in Montreal, Canada. This conference is sponsored by the International Institute of Integral Human Sciences. My guest today is Dr. Rajiv Parti. Dr. Parti is an NDE expert, an educator in consciousness-based healing. He's a speaker and an author, and he has a new book that's just come out, and it's called Dying to Wake Up, A Doctor's Voyage into the Afterlife and the Wisdom He Brought Back. Co-authored with Paul Perry, who we've had at the conference. Welcome, Dr. Parti.
Lynn, it is my pleasure to be here.
And it's great to have you.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Parti, you were living a wonderful life, a busy life as an anesthesiologist. It seemed like you had pretty much everything that you wanted, until a series of events occurred that changed the trajectory of your life. And I've listened to you speak about your life in front of an audience twice now, and I could see from the faces of the people in the audience how moved they were by your authenticity and the candid nature of which you shared your life. And I would appreciate it if you could share for our online audience what exactly happened to you.
You know, I was born and raised in India. I came to US in 1982. I'm a physician by training. I did my basic training in India, and then I came to New York and passed the exams to be a doctor in US. And I passed the exams and I did a residency in pediatrics. But I was not making enough money. So then I went, residencies are very hard. I still remember working 36 hours straight a day. It used to be grueling, but I still worked hard and did a residency in anesthesiology. And I specialize in giving anesthesia for heart surgeries. You must have heard about the valve replacements or bypass or aneurysms, etc.
Of course.
What happened to me, though I was, for a period in my life around when I was 18, I had spiritual questioning a lot. You know, what is life? Why are we here? But once I came to US, I was caught by the American dream. And the American dream, literally a runaway American dream. It was every few years a bigger, more expensive car, a bigger house, theater, like we first generation immigrants have some kind of a competition going. So my last house was, 10,000-11,000 square feet on a golf course and a lake. Mortgage was 15,000. I had a sports car and a Hummer. My wife is a dentist. So by any standard of the world, we were materialistically very successful. I was like the little mouse on the wheel, running and running. I will set a goal, reach there, and then after a few days, the fulfillment was gone. What's next? So that was a life I was leading. And in August of 2008, me and my wife were having tea outside in our backyard and admiring, from where we started and where we have come. When the phone rang, and it was Dr. Chang, my urologist, who told me, I have a good news and a bad news. The bad news first, that I have prostate cancer. I was 51, 52. I was shocked. Literally, I felt as if the earth below my feet had moved. And then he said, the good news is that it is in the early stages. If we remove the whole prostate, radical prostate, it's called radical surgery. When they remove the whole prostate, you will be cured. And that's when I ran to my wife. She was shocked too. And after crying, sobbing, and the original shock was over, we met the doctor and we flew all the way from California to Florida to have it done through holes in the belly, which is called laparoscopically done. And the surgery was done Successfully, I was cured of cancer, but it left me with complications. And the main complications which really affected my life, one was incontinence. I had to wear adult diapers while working. I was giving, as I mentioned, anesthesia for bypass surgeries, which usually take 4 to 5 hours, and used to be pretty hard on me. And then I developed pain in my pelvic area, because where the surgery happened, the scar would form naturally, and I would not be able to go to the bathroom. And they would have to go with a laser or a cord knife and cut the scar. And I needed 7 surgeries by the time my last surgery happened. Yeah. And then it also, for this chronic pelvic pain, they prescribed pain medicines, and I got used to them. So they decided to do emergency surgery around Christmas. And I saw the clock when I was being wheeled into the operating room. And about 20 minutes later, I felt myself near the ceiling, and I could see myself down being operated upon.
At what point in the surgery was this?
It was in the pretty beginning part.
Mm-hmm.
They had just made the incision, and the infected area of fluid was coming out, and I could smell the fluid.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty smelly. So much so the nurse was dragging the surgeons and other people's room on their masks with eucalyptus oil. And the anesthesiologist told a joke. I can't repeat it, but I remember it because it was a dirty joke.
Okay.
And we anesthesiologists, as a part of our profession, quite often tell jokes to keep the atmosphere light in the room.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my near-death experience, my journey into the other realms started. From the operating room, I was suddenly in India, seeing my mother and sister sitting by an electric, heater, and discussing the evening meals. It was pretty cold and frigid there. They were bundled up, and my sister was wearing a jean and a red sweater. My mother was wearing green saris. I felt so good. But to answer your question, how did I get there? It was more like a Star Trek movie. What was it? Beam Me Scotty?
Right.
Yeah. So I was in California, and then I was there.
You didn't feel yourself traveling in any way?
At least for the operating room to India, I didn't feel traveling.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like, and if you read quantum physics, it does make sense. An electron in its orbit can jump in orbit, but it never travels.
Right. That's right.
So
go on after this experience. And you had said that when you were speaking with us here at the conference, that you wanted to reach your mother, but she obviously didn't see you.
It was like a cloud, I could pass through her body, but she couldn't hear me or see me. And then, remarkably, I found myself in a realm where there was perpetual thunderstorm. There was fire, and there I could hear people crying and wailing, and I was being pulled or pushed by souls. I was shocked and realized this is a hellish area. My first reaction was, why am I here? What have I done wrong? While I was asking this question and asking for help, my father, who had died 30 years ago in Fresno, California, after complications from a bypass surgery, showed up. And I have had a very complex relationship with my father. He was very strict, physically abusive. He used to hit me a lot. And later on I realized, in this part of my journey when he showed up and was so helpful to me, I realized the person did not know how to show that he loved. He loved and cared. It repaired my relationship with him. And he, like me as a little boy, led me from the hellish realm towards the tunnel. And when I realized the reason I was in that area, that I had so far led a very selfish life. It was all about me. And it was, how can I get ahead? How can I achieve this success? It was all about me.
It's very powerful, Dr. Parti.
Yeah. Actually, right now, my mother, with whom I share my birthday, sent me, she gets, she's 85, but she has learned how to use a smartphone. Sent me a quote on WhatsApp. Even illness changes into something like, if you replace I with V, illness even becomes wellness.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about, you were saying that you had led what you call a selfish life. What do you mean by that?
Like selfish life, that technically I was a very good doctor. That's why I was chief of anesthesia. But I did not have the deep empathy or care for the patients. They were more like objects. Like, I remember an older lady in 70s came to see me in my pain clinic for arthritis. I just wrote the prescription and walked away. And she wanted to talk to me about her husband dying from lung cancer. But I didn't have time for that. So I didn't have that heart-to-heart connection. And for me, my mantra was succeed at any cost.
Exceed at any cost.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Work hard, spend money. I used to work 60, 70 hours a week, and the higher I went up in my status, the harder I was working.
Mm-hmm.
And before my near-death experience, my stress management was, the days I was not on call, obviously, to have 2-3 drinks of scotch, pass out and go to sleep, and next morning it will start again.
Mm-hmm.
So, to continue with my journey, when I was in the tunnel area with my father, I had a review of my life. And amazingly, I had 2 different kinds of review. One review was the present life in third person, like I could feel what other person was feeling by my actions, good or bad. Like I could feel the lady I'm describing about how let down she felt, not being able to talk to me, and I was in a rush. Similarly, when I was good to somebody, that also made me feel good. I could feel how good the family, especially the family of a patient, would feel after I did a good job and saved somebody who was not like to make it.
When you have this life review, do you feel the pain, or can you kind of look at it and there's some distance when you're reviewing it?
You feel the pain.
Okay. So that might make people worried that if they go, then they'll have a life review and maybe they'll see things that they don't like to see. What would you say to them?
For my thing is, the reality is reality.
Mm-hmm.
So correct your actions now.
Yeah.
So if the review happens, you don't have to fear that.
Right, right.
So my whole idea is to help people transform in their life without having to have a near-death experience.
Right. So what happened after the life review?
After the life review, I had a review of my 2 past lives. And I was a cruel prince in medieval times, whipping poor farmers with a whip, and my soldiers doing the same thing. They were poor farmers wearing brown tattered clothes, and I don't remember the reason I was whipping. And I used to have pain in my right wrist. At one time I could not work for 6 months. I had 3 surgeries on this wrist.
Mm-hmm.
As an anesthesiologist, it's all technical work compared to a psychiatrist who is just talking.
And did you feel this was related to that lifetime?
I think it was, that I was using this wrist to hit people,
Mm-hmm.
Why I believe this is because I asked forgiveness from the farmers, and they forgave me, and my pain went away.
When you were on the other side, you asked for forgiveness.
Yeah, and I was talking to Dr. Raymond Moody, who is the expert on near-death experiences. He actually coined the word near-death experience because in the other realm, past, present, and future exist at the same time. So you can go back and ask for forgiveness. For example, I had a client who, no matter how much money he made, it would not stick to him. He would lose it in stock market or gambling or some loss. And after the regression session, it came out he had taken a vow of poverty to be a, very deep spiritual kind of monk.
He took a vow before he came into this life.
Yeah,
Right.
in the previous life.
Right. So what you're saying is that we carry issues from past lives into this life until we can resolve them.
Yeah.
Right.
And the beauty is, it's not just the negative things. We can also bring the talents back from the previous life.
Well, good for that.
Yeah. Like why do the Mozarts and some other great performers are 5-6 year old? They're already experts.
What was the other life review you had?
And other life view was I was a Afghanistan poppy farmer. I still remember me having a henna colored beard and a turban, and I was tasting the saps, opium plants, to see if it is ripe or not. And then I got addicted to the opium sap. And that tendency followed me in this life when I got addicted to the pain medicines.
And you knew this when you went to the other side and had this past life review.
Yeah,
You sensed it.
yeah, exactly.
So it's a sensing that you're getting.
It is a
No
sensing.
one is telling you this. You're sensing this.
It's sensing and it's coming to your brain telepathically.
Okay.
It's telepathically. And from there, on the other side of the tunnel, I could see some light. And my father disappeared, like from where he showed up, then he disappeared. And I also saw my grandfather while I was there, my ancestors. Now, on the other side of the tunnel, I was greeted by two beings, robust young men. And I didn't know who they were. And they introduced me themselves as being my guardian angels. And they were Michael and Raphael.
So you had this encounter with the angelic beings, and what happened after that?
These angelic beings, Raphael and Michael, imparted me divine knowledge. And they guided me towards a being of light. And here we flew over some meadows. Beautiful mountain. A stream was coming down. And there was a sweet aura, smell to the air. And there was distant om also I could hear. And when I was in the presence of light being, it was light, but you could feel it's a being. It's not just artificial electric light. I had the feeling like, supposing it's totally dark in the room and you're sitting there, and if there's somebody else walks in and there's no noise, you still feel the presence, that there is somebody there. So I actually felt that I'm a part of the light, at the same time separate from the light, like I'm a wave in the ocean. And then I was imparted telepathically that my life will be spared, but it will be totally different life when I go back to earth.
So then so at this point is when you returned to your body?
Yeah, I remember very well being in the recovery room and my body jolting, like as if the body entered with a jolt. It was not a smooth entry.
What was your first impression when you woke up after this experience?
My first impression was I was awestruck had a feeling of gratitude. I wanted to go down on my knees and thank heavens for the experience I had, but obviously I had bandages and I could not do that.
Yes.
And the nurse was busy hooking up me with the monitors, and I was telling her what happened, and she said that she had heard similar stories before.
You were saying in your lecture that we don't have to die in order to understand the wisdom that you gained when you were on the other side. And you really say that the key is having a consciousness-based lifestyle, and that there are 7 eternal truths that you learned, which I think would have such great wisdom for our audience. Could you share those 7 eternal truths with us?
Very good question. And these 7 eternal truths are the basis of my consciousness-based healing and for leading a conscious life, or even for business, conscious business development. And the basic truth is, number 1, that consciousness can exist separate from the body. Though it needs the body to function, but it can exist separate. Like body is not the one which is creating consciousness, it's already there. Consciousness is using the body. And then my father showed up, and that was his life after death. A lot of people report having connection with their departed ones through dreams, or they can feel their presence. Then it was that we all have past lives which do influence our present lives. And I remember a couple who were in this life almost on the verge of divorce, but somebody suggested to go for past life regression. In their past life, they were in a car accident, and just before the accident, they were arguing when they died. So in this life, they were able to complete that argument and forgive each other, and actually it saved their life, marriage in this life. So the past lives are there, and we carry those tendencies. And as I mentioned, one can bring those talents back too. Like somebody may not be a writer in this life, doesn't know how to write, but could be a writer in previous life. So he can tap into that potential, latent talents. And then the other truth was that there are divine beings, like my encounter with angels, your ascended masters, angels, and great people, prophets, Christ, Muhammad, Buddha, who are there to help us for asking, who have our best interest in their heart. And their main job is just to help. I would like to introduce actually a Buddhist term here, Bodhisattva. They are very enlightened beings who give up their own enlightenment till if they can help everybody get enlightenment. And the other truth was that there are different levels of consciousness. We all are familiar with sleeping, dreaming, awake. Then nowadays most people are familiar with the meditative or transcendental level of consciousness. Then we have divine consciousness, cosmic consciousness, and the universal consciousness. And another way of classifying consciousness is by the yogic way of chakra system, where there's 7 energy centers. And as you go from lower, the root chakra, up to the crown chakra, they became more refined and more subtle. And that's one way of defining consciousness. So there are different levels of consciousness. And the most important thing, the true nature of reality is pure love. And we both, me and you and everybody around, is made of that love. We are all connected to each other. So if I'm hurting myself, I'm hurting you. Or if I'm hurting you, I'm hurting myself.
That's very powerful, Dr. Parti. I don't think we can top that last eternal truth that you shared with us. So let me ask you, you have your book that's come out and it looks amazing. Share with the audience, where can we reach you?
Yeah, I have two websites. One is drparty.com and DR, and my last name is Party. The way I kid around is party like party.
Right.
Instead of Y, it is I for India because I'm an Indian.
Right.
So it's drparti.com. But for the book, I have a special website, dyingtowakeup.com.